Alright, so this is going to be the process for doing levels and automation on the tracks. So I'm going to walk you through the entire process here real quick, and I'm going to hopefully show you all the things you need to know. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab this iPad here, and we are going to open it up. We're going to open up the mixing station app, and if it comes up already connected to something, just go ahead and close it out entirely and just start from fresh. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to Soundcraft SI, and we're going to try to connect. Sometimes it'll connect, sometimes it won't. If it won't connect, go back and forth between the search and connect options. If the search brings it up, it'll say, hey, this is the guy, you want to connect to it? Yes. Or if the connect works, it'll just connect directly like it did in this video. Alright, so our first steps here for leveling the tracks is going to be go to the main output, so this matrix/main. I accidentally clicked a mix, so this is now going to the acoustic mix, which the main does not go to. So click that again, take that off. Alright, so we're going to make sure that our left, right, and mono are at 0.0. This button up here is called fine, so that's fine control of this. If I turn that off, oops, I clicked the wrong thing. If I turn that off, it's more coarse and it's harder to get that exactly on the right value. So if you turn on fine mode, it's easier to just bump that right to exactly where you need it. We're going to do the same thing on layer C for all four of these over here. So band, drums, tracks, vocals doesn't matter. Neither does drums actually, but I just go ahead and level them all at 0. And then all of these tracks, so from bass track all the way over to effects, we want them all to be at -5. So that's the starting point for levels. That gives us plenty of headroom. That gives us 15 dB of headroom to be able to push these tracks up if we need it at the board, and that is where we level all these tracks to. So our next step in the process is going to be come over here to Ableton. We're going to go over to the other view. You can either get there by clicking this button here, or you can click the tab button on the keyboard, and that will take you there as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to come all the way down to our outputs here. I've already done this, so it's already minimized. But what I typically do is I check all of these levels down here and make sure they're all at 0, because these are our output levels. We don't want to change these at all. We want to leave them at 0. And I come to this bass guitar track, make sure none of these are up. Every once in a while, older songs will have one of these up, and that was because our template was messed up back in the day. So just check that. Check that all of these are at 0. Everything else should be good, and then you just minimize that to signify you've done that. If there's multiple outputs, that's okay. Just go ahead and do that for all of those outputs. Alright, so our next step in the process is if we have a brand new song, and I don't think we have any brand new songs in here as of right now, because I've kind of already done the leveling on this one. But if we have a brand new song, all of the channels for that song are going to be at 0. So each song is color coded, and this is the way we do all of our projects. So I'm So Blessed right here is color coded as pink, and then the next song, Echo in Jesus Name, is orange, and so forth with the rest of the tracks that we have for songs. So we're going to take all of our channels for the song that we're trying to level, and if they're at 0, that's going to be way too loud. It's going to blow your ears. Not really, but it's going to be very loud. So you want to click the first one. So that'll be drums usually. So you don't want to select click track or guide. Don't mind this. This is actually probably a bad song to show you on because it's slightly different. All right, so click or guide, you don't want to select those. Those stay at 0. Everything else from drums down to the last channel in the chain is going to be moved down. So if you notice this one, this is the automation track. It doesn't have a fader because that's a MIDI channel, so it's not an audio channel, so it doesn't have a fader for that. All right, so once we've clicked this one, come down here and shift click to select all of these. We're just going to click on one of these guys, and you can use the arrow keys on the keyboard, so up and down arrow keys to move these up and down. So I typically go down at least 10 dB, so -10 to start with. Then I'll play the song, and with them all still selected, move them back up to a level that sounds pretty good as far as volume goes. From that point, I then go through each track individually. Usually you need to turn the background vocals down. As you see here, this is 10 dB below everything else. This one was a really easy song to level. It didn't need anything much other than just the background vocals taken down, and then the percussion track here needed taken down a little bit more. The percussion tracks usually come in pretty hot in my opinion. Everyone will level things differently, but those shakers and other cymbals will come in a little bit hot, in my opinion. So once you have brought all these down, brought it up to a pretty good level, then you go through each channel, you just play the song, listen to it, see what it sounds like. If you want more guitars, bring the guitars up. If you want more keys, bring the keys up, whatever it may be, make it sound good. With in mind, you're going to be adding guitars and bass and all that via the instruments that are playing live. Now, I'll show you here this again on the board. This mute group 6, this is the track instruments. So if you do that, you'll see all of the instruments over here for the tracks get muted. So I will do that to listen to the tracks by themselves without the instruments that are going to be supplemented by people actually playing them, to see what just the tracks where we are playing sound like. That's just a bonus feature if you want to do that. You don't necessarily need to, but it will probably give you a better result to kind of wrap your head around exactly what is going to be coming from this computer during the worship set. All right, so with that being said, I typically level the tracks with the drums on just so I hear what it's going to sound like with that in, but I move that down usually a good bit in the mix so it's not overpowering, because they're usually pretty hot. And then once we're done leveling those tracks, you mute the drum track, because we never use this drum track for anything. We have a live drummer always. So that is the entire process for leveling tracks. Other than that, the routing is the only other thing. I just remember that. So click track goes to external out. So if there's no out or whatever, you come here, go all the way up to the top, external out, and then output 1. And then everything else goes to its channel by name. So guide track goes to guide. These are going to be all the way at the bottom. So this is every channel in this project in order from top to bottom instead of left to right. So if I go through, you're going to see there's all these channels, but we're interested in the outputs channels, which we've got here. So that starts with a guide and then a pad and then hook. So that's the way you identify those in that list. So we're going to come here and we're going to say this guide track, this goes to, so this is all the way at the bottom. So I've scrolled all the way down to the bottom and I'm looking, and all right, so there's a guide here, pad, hook. So that means that this is the guide we want to send that to. Same thing with, so from here down through here are going to be the output channels. So we'll go through drums, go to percussion, percussion goes to percussion, bass goes to bass guitar, acoustic guitar, so AG goes to this AG channel for acoustic guitar, EG1, guitar 1, EG2 would be guitar 2 if there was a guitar 2 channel, piano goes to piano, organs, keys, synths, anything like that goes to the synth outputs. There are 5 of these. It doesn't really matter anymore. I used to record these separately for mixing later, but they all go to the same place on the board. So just spread any channels going to the synths through these 5 and it'll be fine. So organs, keys, a lot of times strings sometimes will go to synths. It just depends on the sound. And then background vocals we typically send to pad. So the only other thing is the hook channel. So that is a specialty channel that is the lead melody of the song. So if there's a song where there's a track that's going to be playing the lead melody, I will typically route whatever that track is, or sometimes it's multiple tracks that combine together to make the one sound, and I will route those all to the hook channel. So there's one fader on the soundboard that the guy mixing or the gal mixing can grab and say, okay, I want more of that leading melody from the track, and push that up. So like I said, not the end of the world if we don't get that done, but that is a very nice quality of life feature for the audio engineer. All right, so we're going to switch over to automation, and I have not done automation for this song here. Now this is a little bit different song because it has a split in it for vibrant. I don't think there's any others in this set list that I have not done. So yeah, all the rest of them I have already done. This one I haven't. So we can go ahead and either do this one or we'll do this one. So it doesn't really matter which one I do. I'll do this one and show you. All right, so the process of doing automation. First thing you want to do is make sure you've got your track here ready for automation. So you want this to be a MIDI track and not an audio track. You'll notice that it's a MIDI track by these dots instead of the meter here. You'll also notice that there is no level control or panning control or anything like that under here. And then in this view, same thing. There's dots instead of a meter. There's no level control, there's no panning control, there's a lot of stuff missing here from the audio track, and so that will signify that this is a MIDI track. If there's not a MIDI track, all you got to do is come to this last track and right click and add a MIDI track. So that will insert a MIDI track, and that's all you need to do for that. So I'm gonna undo that real quick. So now we have our MIDI track. We want to make sure it is getting all ins for its inputs because we want to record ourselves. We're gonna come over here. This is the record arm button. We're gonna hit that guy, and we're gonna slide Ableton over. So this program right here is what we're going to use to actually control the slides as we record. So let me walk you through this process here. So we need Ableton open with this setup, how I just showed you. We need MIDI tools. So that's what this program is right here. This is its default window. If this window down here isn't popped up somewhere, it's this button right here that will show or hide that. It's not hiding at the moment, but it will show it if it's not showing. We also need Boom MIDI Translator open. So just open that guy, and then you can minimize him. He just needs to be running in the background. And then he also runs up here at the top. And then we need Boom Network running, and he is already running. And it needs to be connected to CG1. So under disconnect, that means that these are the ones that it's connected to. It needs to be connected to CG1. And that is all the programs and steps for setting up to be ready to record automation. So we've got our song ready in Ableton. We've got our program up here. The next thing you want to do is make sure that this is controlling ProPresenter. So I usually bring that all the way down to the bottom. And then let me start a video recording here. So you'll come over here to CG1, and you'll click on your song over here on the left. You'll want to make sure down here on the Stream Deck that the lyric automation is green. So if this is on another channel, the CG1 controls here, and make sure that guy's green, that means it's on. That is a shut-off switch to turn lyric automation off from Ableton to there. All right, so now that we've got that on, we made sure it's good. We're gonna click on this and use the up arrow to make sure we are advancing slides, which we are actually not doing right now. So, troubleshooting steps. So, as I click on this and move, I should expect little yellow buttons to show up right here in these guys. I'm not getting that. So that leads me to believe something's wrong here. So I'm gonna restart these programs. I'm gonna go ahead and close this guy out, and I'm gonna come to Boom MIDI Translator and close him out. Yes, I wanna quit it. If it ever asks you to save, say no, because it's already a pre-saved file that just needs reloaded. All right, so I'm gonna start this up. Boom MIDI Translator first, MIDI tools. We're gonna minimize Boom MIDI Translator. MIDI tools is gonna come up here. We're gonna select that. Okay, so right here where this output device shows, we want this to be Boom MIDI Translator 1. So that's what we're sending this to. So now if we grab this, you can see that you're getting a signal down here. And if I start another video here, you can see that we are now getting lyrics. So if I continue to hit this button, it is advancing through the lyrics. So that is working. So that's the troubleshooting step. Other steps you can do is to make sure that you are indeed getting lyrics through the shut-off switch. And then if nothing else, you can go to Preferences of ProPresenter and Devices and make sure this lyric control is connected with one input. All right, so we are set up, we're working, we're ready to go. I'm gonna drag this back over here just so I can see Ableton and this window at the same time. Dakota's amazing, he just gave me some fruit smiles. We are ready to record. So what we're gonna do, we've got a record arm in Ableton ready. We're gonna come all the way over here and we're gonna click and make sure we've got this little blue line to highlight. You can also click on the locator, either one works. Pretty much all we wanna do is tell Ableton, hey, I wanna start here. And then we're gonna click the record button. So right before we do that, last thing, we're gonna come over to the soundboard, go to layer C, and this is just gonna make things a lot easier. We're gonna come up here to this click and guide track. We're gonna select this one, and we're gonna come up here to left, right. That puts this in the speakers. Same thing with the guide track. We're gonna click that, and then we're gonna bring these guys up to about -30. These are really loud, so you're not gonna wanna push them up very far. I'm actually going to just hit the play button real quick. And you're gonna hear that that's the level that those are gonna be coming in on.
2, 3, 4.
So after that, I'm gonna bring down my tracks levels just so that we're not super loud as we're doing this automation. And I will show you this process of recording the automation. So back in Ableton, we're gonna click on there, make sure our line's there. We're gonna start the record button, and you're gonna hear it's gonna give you an 8 count input to this point, and then you'll hear the count in of the song. And then from there, we're gonna start recording. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click that, I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna select this program, and you wanna make sure that's selected, and that's gonna work. So I'm gonna come back to Ableton, hit record, and now it's counting me in. Here's the 8 counts in.
1.
Now this is the song count in.
2. Refrain 2, 3, 4. Verse 1. Drums in. Pre-chorus. Chorus. All in. Refrain. Breakdown. Verse 2. Drums in. Chorus. All in. Chorus. Rap. Breakdown.
All right, so I've already messed up here on this automation, so I'm gonna hit the pause button. I gotta click back on Ableton, hit that pause button. That rap portion caught me off guard. I haven't heard that many times. I do recommend listening to the song several times before you try to do automation. I have not listened to the rap section many times specifically. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back to the point at which that we started having issues. If I double click on that track that I just did, so if I double click on this, it'll bring this window up here. So these are all of our slides that we're gonna fire as notes in MIDI. So we're gonna drag this guy right here up. If this isn't showing, I do believe, nope, it's not that. It's this little button here that shows that. So drag that up so we can see our note values here. Then come back over to Pro Presenter, and we're gonna see at the point at which we started to mess up. All right, so I started to mess up here at the wrap of this, which is this section here. So our last slide that was good was 39. So we're gonna back up to 39. We're gonna come over to this guy and back him up to 39. And then we're gonna find 39 on here. We gotta click on that. So there's 39. So that's our last no good one. We're just gonna go ahead and delete all of these out of here. Oops, there we go. And then we're gonna come up to this section. The low battery, gonna have to do this quick. We're gonna drag this back to there, and you can drag this back to where it's overlapping. So this is the entire note length here. So I'm gonna drag this back to where it's overlapping, and I'll start my recording again here. So we're still record armed. I'm gonna hit the record button again, and then I'm gonna pick back up right where I left off. So again, make sure this is set at the last slide. Make sure you back this up to the last slide. Those two should match. Hit the record button again, and it'll give me another 8 count in, and I can restart this automation.
Rap. Breakdown. Drums in. Pre-chorus. Chorus. All in. Chorus.
All right, so this is where this song differs. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the automation recording here. So just pretend that's the end of the song. This one has a break, so I'm actually gonna start up again recording here. I won't show that, but that would be the whole process of recording automation and starting again if you mess up. You can also back this up. You don't have to use every bit of the first section that you recorded. You can back this up even farther if you want to start earlier so you can get into the tempo of the song. And if you mess up the beginning of your second recording, all you got to do is grab this guy and drag him out. So you can cross these pretty much to where you use whatever portions of each one you need to make this work. If you need to adjust things individually, so say like, I don't know, slide whatever, like this slide, we fired too early. You can come in here and you can use this guy to adjust and move him back and forth and adjust those slides individually so that you can get your timing just right. So the recording of the slides, I typically fire the next slide directly when they say the words, and then I'll take the entire file and shift it. So let me show you that next. All right, so we've got two sections here. I'm gonna make these into one by shift clicking both of them and then hit consolidate. So now that's made that one file. There's no split it anymore. And we need to back this guy up. So I'm gonna drag the end of that and probably, so this is our time base, measure 1, measure 2. So let's back this up a beat out of 4. So we're gonna back that up 1 beat out of 4 and we're gonna see how that lines up. So let me hit the play button here.
Refrain.
I'm gonna see if these words line up. All right, so that doesn't quite line up how I'd like it. I want it to be a little bit earlier. So with that still selected, I'm gonna hit this left arrow key to move that over one more. So I want these lyrics to lead the song a little bit so that people can read what they're about to sing before they need to sing it. So that's actually a little bit too early now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here into Ableton and I'm gonna zoom in until I get the next set of delineations, and I'm gonna go back right one more. So I like that timing right there. Yep, so I like that timing right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop Ableton playing here. So we've now gotten our automation recorded and lined up. I'm gonna drag this back out to the beginning of the song so it starts at the right point. I'm gonna double click this guy and we're gonna add our pick note. So the pick note is what determines what song in ProPresenter gets selected. So the pick note is gonna be whatever number in this list here, including all of these guys. So if there's one of these at the top, you gotta count that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is our pick note for this. So how we're gonna do that, back over here in Ableton, we're gonna come down to this F sharp -1 right below these G -1 notes that are the slides. We're gonna double click right there and we're gonna select this and make this 8. So the same as our number over in ProPresenter. So now, when we fire this, no matter what's selected in ProPresenter, as long as the entire playlist, so in this case Vibrant, is selected, it will select the right number in the playlist.
2.
So I'm gonna play this,
Refrain. 2.
and it's gonna select
3,
it and start
4.
firing it right like that. All right, so that is automation done. Clean up, make sure you disable the record arm. You don't wanna leave that on. You wanna minimize that window. And you wanna make sure you save. So File, Save Live Set. That is going to make sure that you have saved all the automation, all the hard work you just did. Don't want to lose that. That's the entire process.